Hey guys, it's Scott, and whether for my own marketing or my referral program, I usually do one of these somewhat unconventional deals a month, like the kind I'm going to show you in this video. Well, how does a case study like this help? Well, pattern recognition equals skill acquisition. So once you see how the opportunity can look and take shape, you'll see the opportunities like this are hiding in plain sight all around you. I don't even look at them as special case scenarios anymore. They're just kind of normal to me now. But what is not normal about these deals is the amount of profits I can make, much more than traditional listings on the MLS. The profits are huge because these underground opportunities rarely hit the MLS. They can't be financed traditionally, and retail investors don't know how to structure these opportunities, so there's far less competition. The traditional process of looking on the MLS, finding a property, getting a bank loan has huge limitations because the MLS attracts retail investors who sadly overpay. And that retail effect makes prices on the MLS artificially high. Retail investors have to overpay for two reasons. They don't think outside the box and they don't know alternative acquisition options to finance their deals. The result is for the unconventional deals like the one I'm going to show you here, there are very few people in the space who can offer a solution and then make the money work. So, besides making more money, many times I can talk directly with the decision makers so I can bypass the gatekeepers, brokers, and banking departments. So when you're good at the deal maker discovery discussions, you can negotiate far better terms because you're able to explain the benefits to the sellers and explain your position better. And then with these unconventional deals, I remain in the driver's seat much more than dealing with a bank foreclosure or working with a broker on properties listed on the MLS. This gives me flexibility, again, to explain my terms and use my own paperwork. And in this case, actually, that was a deal breaker because I had to add a vital clause to the paperwork. So I'm going to lay out my process and reasoning, even my wording, so you can take what you find helpful and do the same, and maybe even make the same. 1 month's pay in 1 week. But the numbers aren't as important as my methods, lessons, and the wording. So, numbers guys get a little stuck here. You may get down in the weeds and start counting beans, but I would suggest just take a concept view, a big overhead view, instead of a data view to fully understand what I'm presenting here, which is finding the opportunity in this case study. Digits change from deal to deal. Model, lessons, and processes can carry over and help many of our future deals. So the goal is get the model, the lessons, my processes, the wording, get everything that I did, find high value opportunities that are hiding in plain sight. So for full transparency, I'll give you my work cadence and how I came up with the one deal, 1 month off idea. It won't be for everybody, but it's working for me right where I'm at, and I love it right now. My summer work cadence looks like this. When working on one of these unconventional deals, I spend about a week of work and then I take the rest of the month off to either focus entirely on my business goals, like the high level, not working in the business, working on the business, or I just go ghost for the rest of the month, which is, and this is what I normally do actually. I'll take the rest of the month off, no work, no phone calls, no emails, no deals. I just go ghost. But in order to do deals that make enough money to take the month off, you have to, number one, check your words to change your value. Now, this doesn't get a lot of talk, but check this out. Before the next section, which we'll get into that case study on how I found the opportunity, I want to point out my wording. I didn't find the deal. I found the opportunity, then I created the deal. And you may think this is just semantics, just a few word changes, but it really does make a big difference on how you view things and how people view you. Deals are created, not found. Why do I bring this up and how does it, one word, change the whole meaning? Well, because when you're talking with home sellers, private lenders, partners, bankers, you need to position yourself in the best light. You really need to sell yourself by using the most accurate wording. And throughout this video, you'll learn techniques that will put you in a position to either sound like a professional or an amateur. You'll be viewed as someone who's either worthy of respect and worth investing in and investing with, or viewed as someone who's high risk and of little value to the matter at hand. For example, which sentence implies a high value character? I found a great real estate deal, or I created a great real estate deal. Well, the retail investors who find great real estate deals got lucky. They may or may not have a repeatable system for doing it in, and they may even be a little surprised that the real estate gods would favor them. The retail investor is the mom and pop who listen to the late night infomercial but wouldn't dream of paying for someone else's turnkey system because they'll just patch together their own system through an expensive time trial and error. Also, the retail investor is the fast talker who graduated from YouTube University with a PhD in world domination. Once he finds the deals and finds the money and finds the time to do it all. Now, retail investors, I was that. I started there. I think we all kind of start there. So don't be too upset if I'm pointing you out as you being one of these. I can easily get you on the fast track to going pro. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I want you to contrast the retail investor to the multifunctional investor, which is the apex of investing. The multifunctional investor creates a great real estate deal using the Deal Maker Masterclass. Multifunctional investor creates the money source using alternative acquisition options. And the creator has the talent to form something special out of raw materials, the raw deal. It's logical for the creator to have some experience doing this and can probably do it again. He's creating it again and again. And frankly, to retail investors, this is a bold statement, uncomfortable even to say out loud. I created a great real estate deal. And the fact is, by choosing your words wisely, you'll be able to create more deals, help more people, and make more millions. So one more mindset, word selection, different text, same theme. Which may be a more repeatable value to you or others? I found $1 million, or I made $1 million. One small word change. I mean, if you found $1 million, you got lucky. Like you found a deal. If you made $1 million, you can probably make another million and then another 10 million. So the goal is to position yourself in the best light using the most accurate wording. So now that we got that mindset out of the way, we can get to how I made this opportunity. Well, one of my investment beliefs is that you can drop me down into any town, butt naked and broke, and I'll have deals and days and a closing by the end of the week. The proof of that is in this property, located in an area I've really never been to and I'm not familiar with. Drove through it a few times, never stayed in there. I certainly never looked for deals there. I also lack the buyer's list for the area and no supporting contacts like closers, agents, or contractors. I was in the area on vacation and I jogged by this property that you see right here every day. And I noticed it like a magnet. It was pulling me closer because it definitely was out of place. It stuck out like a sore thumb in the middle of a nice established area. One day I was walking around the entire property and I saw a stop work order posted. So I wrote down that information from the order. Then I saw a neighbor walking his dog and I asked him about the place. And this is a great opening line. I've used this so many times, or a small variance of this. What's the story on this place? With a smile. And you will get so much information so often from people in and around the property you're looking at. So talking with people is a great way to uncover deals that other investors miss. A simple, quick relationship with someone familiar with the property can get you a lot of intel on what I call the 3 Ps, the people in and around the property itself, and the problems with both the people and the property. Start by asking the question that's already in their mind. You know, it's an eyesore, typically. It's bringing down the property values. It's bringing in pests, both bugs and burglars, vandals, squatters. So whether you're talking with a neighbor, a contractor in the place or around the place, a neighbor or a neighborhood code worker, or another investor with property in the area, a person mowing the lawns even, and the mailman, all of these people can help you uncover More of the story on the property, especially mailmen. Mailmen don't get to talk to many people all day long, so if they know something, which they usually do, they'll be happy to tell you all about it. Often mailmen know of two or three other properties on their route, whether that's vacant, condemned, maybe some people living in it have problems, whether that's the owner or the tenants. And they know all about the foreclosure notices and condemnation tags because they go right up to the property almost every day. So be sure to always go out of your way to greet the mailman when you're at properties, whether your properties or going out in the field looking, because they're always a great source for leads. And you don't need to be a people person to put this to work. I'm not a people person. I'm not typically outgoing by nature. I just smile and ask a few questions to anyone who has anything to do with the property in question. And simply smiling and saying this line has opened so many doors. That's really made me a lot of money in real estate. Morning, what's the story on this eyesore? To the contractor who's at the junker, I ask, well, you got your work cut out for you. I will literally walk in to, if the door's open, I'll walk in. If it's locked, I'll knock if I know they're in there working on it. Seasoned investors, you can tell if a place is owner occupied, if it's in the middle of a rehab, but just walk in there. You got your work cut out for you, don't you? They'll be a little startled. Smile when you say it. Bang on the door or stomp your feet when you walk in so you don't startle them. And even if you already got a solid contractor, get their name and number, because one of anyone in your business is a bad number to have. Like one contractor, if you rely on one payroll company, if you rely on one of anything, one closer. So always ask whenever you see a contractor or a yard guy or any really manual labor, get their name and number, because you never know when you might need them. And then to the mailman, just say, hey, this is probably the ugliest house on your route, huh? It just opens the door. What do they say next? Well, actually, there's one up the road. You wouldn't believe it. There's some squatters living in there, and they're burning paper at night to stay warm. Well, I mean, get that information too. To the neighbor, say, you'll probably have a family of raccoons as neighbors. I once said that to a neighbor, and she said, well, a family of rats just moved out. And I laughed and I said, the two-legged or the four-legged kind? And she said, are you in real estate? Because she saw me poking around. I said, yeah, I help people get into and out of houses by solving problems. Turns out she was the owner of the property. And the family of rats she was referring to who just left were her land contract buyers who never paid and skipped out. And she was trying to, or tired of renting it and wanted to retire as a landlord ASAP. And guess who bought her house? I signed the purchase agreement that day, and we closed using 100% seller financing in 12 days. So real estate is not just about property, it's about relationships. I always say real estate is about relationships. And in this day and age of like texting, and the ability to talk in person to a person is a huge advantage. So back to this case study. I didn't know what kind of deal I could arrange at first. It was condemned places, and even I didn't know it was condemned at the time. I was thinking this, but properties with stop work orders traditionally can't be financed, and you'll have to have either cash or a hard money lender. So from the address, I got the stop work order, and I called and I talked with the assessor's office and the tax folks, and I found out the owner's name, found out there was back taxes, the typical code violations and code fines, and a first mortgage lender. And there was also a notice of foreclosure filed. Then I talked with the building code about the problem, why the stop work order was placed. And then I called the investor, got his voicemail. So I mailed him my avoid foreclosure letter from the lead generation engine and enclosed a pen, just like it says in the process to do. And I took all the information to see if and how I could create a profitable deal. I used the deal maker diagnostic to document all the seller property information, all the bank information, every contact that is important or vital to have in the future in an organized fashion. It helps me remember what questions to ask also. If I don't use this, I always end up looking terrible and having to call back somebody or wishing I had asked something. So I always use it. It's just a rule, even after 1,000, 2,000 times of using a Dealmaker diagnostic. Whenever I neglect to use it, it never ends well. So if you need to call the seller back and say, gee, Mr. Seller, or hey, Mr. Banker, I'm that professional house buyer you were talking with. Yeah, well, I forgot to ask you about this, that, and the other. You just slipped from trusted expert to sloppy unprofessional in 2 calls. So just always use the Dealmaker diagnostic. My coaching clients always avoid looking unprofessional by using the Dealmaker diagnostic. So when you're doing these initial steps and searches, keep an open mind. You want to be neutral. You want to be like a referee. Document your findings indifferently. You don't want to take the dates and numbers that you're given and try to persuade your thinking. You want to be factual and honest without influencing the data either way. Whether to kill the deal or make the deal happen, be indifferent like a referee. Just like us recovering stock traders, we show up every day and take what the market gives us. We can't force a trade, and the same is for real estate. You can't force a deal. But always do be inquisitive. Think relationships again. Before you leave each city department or get off the phone, ask those city workers, what else do you think I should know? What else do you think I should check out? And what other deals also could potentially be there? It's a fun conversation starter to hear what they say. And every once in a while, they maybe throw something out that you didn't think of. And I've got other investors' names and numbers and properties from them. They say, so-and-so was just in here looking for deals, call him. And I also ask if there's any one that has asked about the property I'm looking at. I was still surprised that no one had inquired about this property because it was just stuck out like a sore thumb, like I said. But like I said earlier, there's just not many people who venture out of the kiddie pool and into the deep end. And hey, that's just more deals for me. As a seasoned investors, we lose our sense of adventure and inquisitiveness. So we stop asking questions because we know the ropes and we're already profitable. So we get lazy. I'm guilty of this. But being a great investor means we keep asking questions to everyone who is near to the opportunity and or could know of an opportunity. So how I view these problems, there's 3 problems that I had with this situation here, this property. I view these problems and all problems as the bigger the better. If anyone can solve these problems, the profits would not be as big. I just go through each problem, I solve it when I can, and I keep pushing the ball down the field as fast as I can. The building department said this property had foundation issues that were missed in the initial checkoffs. Because the checks were missed, the structure was actually built out already. And for that reason, going back to fix the foundation was very problematic. One of the issues was it was 2 inches too low, which is a big deal in Florida near the water. Basically, it was a financial nightmare that may not be worth the cost of repairing it. The fix was more than the current value. So as it sat, the structure could be built no further, and it could have no human occupancy until fixed, meaning the apartment building could never be built out or occupied or rented or sold retail. Everyone involved was pointing their fingers at the other guy, whether that was the lender, the building department, the contractor, the insurance for the contractor, who I also talked with, or the investor who was at his wit's end. And this was not going to end well. It was going to end up very messy, drawn out court case with no winners. And to make matters worse, the faulty work was not insured because the contractor's insurance had lapsed. So the place was just sitting in limbo until some kind of answers could be found. And there was no answers being found by anybody because they didn't know what to do. The other big problem was the financial deadline. So the bridge loan needed to be paid off, and back taxes and code fines were adding up every day, and all looked lost. The more time went on, the larger the code fines, of course, and eventually an order to demolish was going to be issued. And I didn't have any buyers. I didn't have a buyer's list for the area. Again, I was new to this, and but my lead generation engine has templates for this to basically help. So I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I can easily adapt and use. These methods work in all areas because they are built on proven sales responses. So I don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's basically like it's not geographical, it's psychological. So as soon as I got the signed purchase agreement, I started my new deal checklist process and turned the key on my lead generation engine. And by the way, this is just a great mindset I wanted to point out. A mindset I adopted that served me well managing my $12 million real estate portfolio and flipping deals fast is treat rental vacancies and new deals like an emergency. Like you need to act fast and prioritize this above everything else. It'll make you more money. So, problem 3, no buyers list. I attended RIA, I think either one or two RIA meetings, and I gave out handouts. Just used a template from the lead generation engine. I called other self storage investors from their signage, and I called investors from We Buy Houses signs, everyone I seen. And I used my investor scripts to basically do a professional, quick, and concise pitch. And then I used my marketing templates to investors and agents, again from the lead generation engine. This is like you want to balance need and speed. You don't want to get too down in the weeds and like drag things on because in a case like this, and in a lot of these unique cases, speed is a big thing. There's always some kind of timeline. So get all the things you need, what you need to tie up the property, everyone's contact information, determining code fines and how much in fees and back taxes, all that, and keep it all in the deal maker diagnostic. And then you want to immediately start your marketing campaign because once you get it under contract, time clock starts ticking and you only have so long to make the magic happen until the purchase agreement expires. And get your deal to market in a big way, the fastest way, using a system like my lead generation engine. So my clients that use my DealMaker Discovery know how valuable deals are crafted. One of the most important and valuable questions is a brief, clear, and open-ended inquiry designed to elicit a thoughtful, deep response, and it's called the money line. And the money line, and I always use some version of this when I talk to anyone involved. And I ask it in order to create the irresistible offer. So I called everyone involved in the situation and asked, like the seller, in your opinion, what is the biggest reason you need to sell right now? I knew, but I wanted him to say it. We won't get into the psychology of this right now. And then I called code. I asked, in your opinion, what is the biggest problem with this place right now? And same thing with the lender. In your opinion, what is the biggest reason you want to get away from this note right now? And most unique deals like these I do often, they all boil down to the 3 Ps: the people, the property, and the problems. And the investor who can methodically solve for each one of these is the one who wins big. And with the answer to the money line, I could now develop a solution that could hopefully address everyone's problem. 3 months prior to this vacation and this deal, I had one of the best self-storage investors teach at my RIA about how he was doing self-storage investing. Then we did a 2-day seminar together on self-storage opportunities. This may have contributed to the idea I hatched to solve this apartment problem. Market this structure as a DIY self-storage building, kind of half done, do it yourself type of thing. And I ran with it to see where it would lead. And so I was back on the phone verifying the idea could be done. So by day 3, I got all my answers to that. And while I knew no one could live in it, and they verified that no one can live in it, it could be used for self-storage if there was a variance applied for. And I was not guaranteed, but they said there's no reason why this variance couldn't be approved. So I called the lender and informed them of the cost to demo the structure and clean up the parcel after the demo. And he already knew it. He had a great ballpark idea, but I wanted to make sure he knew how big that amount was indeed if he did not get a deal done. So I offered to buy the note and mortgage from the lender for 20 cents on the dollar. He sent over his purchase agreement. They wanted to use theirs, but it had no and or assigns clause in it, and I needed that. So because I was in direct contact with the decision maker at the lender, I told him, hey, I would be adding the and or assigns after my signature in this agreement. Oh yeah, okay, no problem. That doesn't change much, right? Okay. And then I wrote it in wherever I had to sign or print my name. And so this allows me to assign that purchase agreement. And with the property locked up, I then shifted back into getting a buyer. When an opportunity can be simply explained, it can be fully paid. It's just a truism. And that's all I did. I explained the opportunity to several local storage builders, storage building owners, and self storage investors. And by day 6, I had one buyer who was very interested and two that were just still thinking about it. On day 7, I signed the papers with that interested buyer and met with the investor who deeded me the property to avoid foreclosure and all the costs. Now I would own the note and mortgage and the property. And I say own the note and mortgage, but in reality, I just own the right to assign it because we hadn't closed yet. So even though I'm not the owner, I can still assign it, which I did at closing, where I gave the new buyer the deed to the place. And my take was $160,000 less a lot of junk fee. I shouldn't say junk fees, but closing costs, fees and fines from the code and city. After all is said and done, I cleared $135,000 in about 10 days worth of phone calls. So the deal cost me zero out of pocket, no banks, no credit checks. And these opportunities are all around us. If you live in or around a major city, I guarantee you will find a deal like this in one way or another. Check this out. This is on my radar. This is just brand new in actually, in a different area, totally different area. Funny enough, while I was sightseeing on vacation, I found this abandoned condo building in a similar state as this case study. And after a few calls, I found out it was partially built on government land because of an improper survey. And there was a stop work order on this one as well, and a mortgage for $3.9 million, and maybe a new concept, maybe a new work cadence coming up. Well, you'll be the first to know. Maybe one deal, 1 year off. So I'll keep you posted on that. So here's the Take Action Challenge. List out the property you've been noticing as you drive by your property. Drive by property that you're looking at. Notice these other hidden opportunities, and then have a way to document all those opportunities you find and the information on them, and contact everyone related to that property to see if there is an opportunity. So here's just a recap of what I used to make this deal happen and put $135,000 in my pocket. Curiosity and questions, simple enough, doesn't cost anything but a little bit of time. Your month off can start with a smile or a question. And actually that could be a phrase right there. Your month off could start with your mouth. Smile and a question. It's made me so much money. I used a new deal checklist process and my lead generation engine, the avoid foreclosure letter and process, the deal maker discovery and that money line, and then using and or assigns to assign contract, which is the ACT system. So I could assign it to a new buyer. As a client, you get all the paperwork and processes to do deals like this, and deals that don't rely on banks or your own money or credit. So it is the fastest and easiest way to close even the most unique real estate transactions. So just copy what I did or book a call with me to get this done for you, and along with my personal one-on-one coaching. So I look forward to helping you out if I can. Hope you enjoyed everything.